LinkedIn, you can probably ask my dad. He works in tech, and this guy is from college, right? And I literally messaged this dude, and I said, "Hey, sir, your son told me that I should ask you this question. I need to build an inventory system." He said, "You need a database, either MySQL or SQL. You need a site scripting language, either PHP." And I just grabbed that and I would start researching what is PHP, what is MySQL, what is all this stuff. I spent a lot of time just learning. I had no option. I had to go and get something going, right? I'm already in my 20s.
Hi, welcome to the Was College Worth It podcast. I'm your host Amir, a 3-time college dropout turned graduate. On this podcast, I explore people's decision to go or not to go to college. I also explore the impact it's had on their lives and their careers. My number one goal here is to unpack their stories and their lessons learned to help you make an informed decision about your education and your career path. It's important to note that the opinions I express here are that of my own and only my own. They are not of the employer that I might have at the time that you're watching this recording. Please subscribe so I can maybe not say that one day. Hector Villasenor, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so glad that we could finally get the chance to talk and catch up. I'm really excited for this today. How are you doing?
Doing very well. Thank you for having me. Really excited, and I know we've been waiting for it to talk, and we couldn't do it, and schedules and everything. But I'm super pumped to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. What are you doing today for work?
I'm a senior manager at my company. I run a team of very amazing people, solution architects and senior consultants. I've been focused on the revenue cloud aspect of things, so any systems around quoting or billing.
Awesome. Okay. What did you take in college for your undergrad, and where did you go for that?
I graduated from California State University, Fullerton. Shout out to the Titans. And I got my undergrad in information systems, a business school with an emphasis on information systems.
Okay. Excellent. On a scale of 1 to 10, was your college experience worth it for you to what you're doing today? And you can't pick 7.
Oh, okay. I'll give it a 10. I'm one of those proponents of college. I think there's a lot of things involved around that makes you. I define college as an experience. When you travel somewhere, there's certain things you learn to travel to a different country that is not in the book. So that's how I see college, right? And there are a lot of things that I learned: cultural awareness. You understand things that brought up to. You can share an opinion. You feel comfortable, right? There's a lot of people. Public speaking, for instance. So there's a lot of things that you don't think about. Everyone focuses, it seems from my perspective, into what you learn on the books, what's in the books, or the professors taught you well or whatnot, and your scores, your tests and everything. But I think it's an experience. So you're not gonna learn textures and smells and sounds if you go to a different country until you're there and you experience it. So that's what I think it's a 10.
I'll ask this first, but I want to hear more about the story leading up to there. What would have made that score less? What would have made it an 8?
A couple of things, right? I went to school older. When I moved to the States, I actually started my college degree at 23, right? Everyone usually starts at 18. I think if I was younger, that would have been a lower to a certain extent, because I came with a different mindset. I was already in my 20s. I had already, as a matter of fact, I was married already, right? I got married very young. Not kids at all, but the idea of getting married and have responsibilities. And so my mindset, I already had a different focus. I think if I was younger, I think that would have lowered the rate of the overall experience. The other thing is, I think it was very challenging, right? When I came back, I have to learn the language. So I kind of barely I spoke English, but I didn't know semantics and good grammar, things like that, right? So anyway, I think going through that process of just relearning, starting from zero, then it pushed me to have I need to get this right. I need to get it done. Also, there was no option, right? You have to go to college. Otherwise, you come to a new country and you're an immigrant. What else are you going to do, right? I knew what I could do and make $15 an hour. I didn't want that, right? I didn't want just to be there. I knew that if you go to college, you can.
Awesome. And just because I know because we've worked together. But where did you move to the U.S. from?
I was born and raised in Puerto Vallarta in Mexico. I moved from Vallarta in 2010 to the States.
So did you know you were going to go to college when you moved over here, or was it in your sights pretty early?
A little bit of background. I am the youngest of six, a big family. Out of those six, only one of my brothers didn't go to college. I'm the
Wow.
youngest one. So I have actually extended family too, but the oldest brother is a lawyer. So
Okay.
he was doing very well. The oldest sister also went to college. The third one didn't go to college, but the fourth one is an accountant. The fifth one is a dietitian, and myself, right? It was this idea of we have to go to college, right? There was in the family, my dad was a teacher. So he was a middle school teacher, and we kind of maybe that's how I got education in my head as you have to, maybe, right?
Yeah.
So definitely have an influence on you have to better yourself. My dad used to tell us you have to be better than me, right? In an area. Coming from humble, I guess beginnings or having not super well off and whatnot,
Yeah.
but the focus was you have to do better, right?
Yeah.
So we all got out of six, five, we got college degrees. That was pretty
That
cool.
that creates quite the competitive environment when you got six family members all looking at each other. Okay, it was just a given, almost like,
Mm.
essentially that you were going to go. Did they all go to the college in back in Mexico, or did they come up to the States or somewhere else?
So everyone's still in Mexico. I'm the only one living in the States. I'm the only
Okay.
one that kind of like later I'm gonna go pursue something else around here. But they all live there. They went to the college, a local college there, university, and they got their degrees. And I actually start going to university in Mexico, and then I drop out, which is it was interesting because I was doing graphic design. But I started a career there. I actually did 4 semesters in university in Mexico before I moved to the States. And then I decided to travel, and then I dropped out.
How did you make that decision to leave? Like, what was like the inner dialogue in your head when you were in graphic design and you decide you're going to drop out and go elsewhere?
Being born in Vallarta, there's always tourism is the way to go, right? If you work in tourism, you make money. That's it. That was the
Yeah.
reality. It was interesting because I had a really good position working on a ship and those like party boats and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
And I was doing very well for my age one and for just the place, right? So just make tips and then you make kind of crappy salary, but hey, that's what it was.
It's the
Uh,
tips that matter in
it
tourism,
is a
right?
typical matter, right? Canadian type of in January, Feb, we're full of Canadians, and then Americans all around, spring breaks and whatnot. Tourism is pretty high, so I work doing that, but I love drawing a ton, and I was okay. Well, graphic design. I used to be also really bad at math. So I was like, hey, let's do graphic design because I don't have to do math. And I can just be expressive in drawings and it
Yeah.
was nice, right? It was very cool. But then I was 4 months in. Two things happened. I was 18 and I was already 18, 19, and I was already a director of activities, right? I was already in a leadership role. And that's
Wow.
how my leadership, I guess, career started since I was 18, 19. I used to run the activities group and it was just, I was responsible. But then I wanted more. Really early on, kind of a good career in a
Yeah.
sense, in terms of like, there were people working there with families, right? Supporting their families, doing what I was doing. I was 19 and 18, 19. This is it, right? It wasn't enough. Vallarta is kind of small, I felt. And
Mhm.
it's not to brag or anything. It's just I felt that I had accomplished already whatever I could
Yeah.
accomplish at that age. So then, of course, I met my wife, and she was my girlfriend at that time. She had a really good career going in the US, and we decided to go to Europe. So that's how we started traveling. That's why I dropped out. So it was the idea of there should be something else. There has to be
Yeah.
something more around just what I'm doing. And then opportunity with my girlfriend at that point saying, why don't we just travel? And I need to see the world, right? So at the right time, at the right moment where I needed to do something else, something bigger or
Hmm.
bolder,
Yeah.
however you want to see it. But I left everything. I dropped out university. I left my house, and I just went to travel for a few months to Europe.
It seems to me that you knew that there were things that you didn't know about the world and
Mm.
you wanted to go explore it. What was it about traveling with your girlfriend that kind of well, I'm making assumptions that traveling kind of opened your eyes
Uh,
into a world that you wouldn't have been able to see otherwise. What was that?
I would say a couple of friends of mine, really close friends of mine, they were traveling already. One of
Yeah.
them is a really good friend of mine, Pablo. He's from Argentina. If he watches this, hello, Pablo. But he's from Argentina. And I remember he moved from Argentina really young to Mexico, and that's how we met. He will share things with me all the time, right? There were a few other people that were like, oh, now I'm traveling to Canada. And I'm like, holy crap, like traveling? What is, I
Yeah.
see all these tourists coming to my country all the time or to
Yeah.
our city, right? I'm not tourists, they're traveling. But then you never think, well, given you have to have the possibility financially to be able to do it, right? For
Yeah.
starters. So we don't think about, at least from my perspective, when I was, granted, I was 18, right? And 19.
Yeah.
But I have this feeling of, well, they can travel. They're learning a ton. They're learning my culture for sure. I think they planted that seed of, hey, traveling, it's possible because we were working on the same job, right? If these people can do it, so can I, right? And then when I met my wife, oh, you can actually go to Canada one day, right? Super cool. First time out of my country, I went to Canada. So that kind of gave me the first, to your point, opening your eyes, right? New cities, new countries, new food, different things.
Where in Canada?
Montreal, yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
to the East Coast. That was the idea, right? And this is to my point. College is an experience. I Googled Canada, I Googled Montreal, I read a lot of things about it. Not until I was there, I experienced it. And there I learned a ton about it while I was there, right? People could say, have you tried this food? Or I could research, but I cannot touch, smell, or have just the sounds and everything, right?
I love the point of there's two things that are standing out to me about what you just kind of brought up. I've never thought about the experience side of college. Normally, when people say was college worth it or not, like even I'm referring to just the studies,
Mhm.
right? But you're what you're talking about is not. It's not just the going to Montreal would be nice. It being there, seeing, feeling what it's to be in there in the cold weather during the winters or
Yeah.
when it's in the summer nights. It you port that over to college. It's not just the studies, it's who do you meet when you're studying, the relationship with the professors, their experiences, what do you do when you're at college, and there's so much around it.
That's always the point that I make, right? Is you're already in college or you're choosing, right? College is the last chance that you're gonna have the possibility as a human being to be surrounded with that many people at the same age or more than likely, right?
Yeah.
That's the last chance. So you're missing out on talking to and meeting incredible humans with the same mindset, ideas, passion that you wouldn't find anywhere else. You might find them at work. It's going to be smaller. It's not going to be that many people at the same time, right? If you think about it. So that's your last chance. As humans, that's our last chance.
That's so true. And I know this wasn't your case, and it wasn't my case when college, but the timing of that with everybody that has such a lack of responsibility in terms of being married, having
Yeah.
kids, the group dynamic when you have all those people together and just to vibe off of. And
Yeah.
obviously, that's not the case for everybody. Yeah, that really is the last chance.
That is, right? If you think about it, there's no other time. It's gonna be work, and you and I were friends, but we never met in person, right?
No.
And that's kind of the part where if you go to college, you're gonna find friendships that are, you would be missing out.
Yeah.
You might find the next person to hire you or to start a company with or to be everything else, right? It's gonna be more difficult. I'm not saying that it's impossible, and there's a lot of people that I'm not suggesting that, but it is the last chance from a human perspective to be that close to someone.
Absolutely. There's a lot of benefits to it, and where a lot of those people have freedom of time. And you said you don't know where these people are going to be 5, 10 years from now. If you have that relationship, that can really pay off in the future. I'll also give some hope to the people that go to school a little later in life as well, because when I go into the Reddit forums, and there's a lot of people posting anonymously feeling nervous about going to college at a later
Mm.
age, and they're worried about being there at a later age. What would you tell someone that was worried about that, if they're 23, 24, 25,
Yeah,
even 30-year-olds who are, I want to go back?
yeah.
What would you tell that person?
Everything comes from insecurity, right?
Yeah.
And everyone who feels nervous or, oh, I don't know what people are gonna think about me, it's just insecurity, right? For starters, okay, who gives a shit,
Yeah.
right? That's it.
Yeah.
Just okay, done. Just work with that. Who gives a damn, right?
Yeah.
I went back to school older. I didn't fit into the groups of friends. I didn't do the whole college experience of drinking and partying and all this stuff because I have done that already when I was young.
Yeah.
I have done that in Mexico. I mean, freaking Puerto Vallarta. Google it if you don't know what it is. But
Yeah.
I grew up there, right? I worked in that environment.
Yeah.
But two, the objective, right? At that age, when you're going back, the reason people at that older age want to go back, they have to think about what their objective is, and the objective is to make money. Period.
Hmm.
Right? That's it's not that I missed the classroom. You need to make more money because it's not cutting it. Whatever you're doing now is not cutting it. Right?
Yeah.
So you have to remember about your objectives. The second thing that I would tell them is once your mindset already changed, you have different priorities, and your priority number one is to make more money than what you're making on your current job, right? For instance, if that's a driver, you're going to behave with that focus. You're not going to be messing around. You're not going to be like, that paper is due tomorrow, I'm going to write it tonight, right? You prioritize, you are more focused, and you have more experience, life experience. Every time you hear something now in class, you can apply it almost immediately, especially if you're working in the industry, which was my case, right?
Yeah.
An example is I was learning systems analysis and design, taking that course in my undergrad while doing analysis and design for a customer, right? I was working as a consultant,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to school at night. So it's this idea of we're doing this analysis session, but now I'm learning it from the people who invented the term systems analysis and design. Not invented per se, but the book, right? There's these PhDs who spend hours reading and publishing articles and finding the best way to this analysis session, for instance. Well, these people know what they're doing. I'm learning it from them, from this book, and then I'm applying it the next day, right? All of a sudden, my analysis improved, right? My diagramming. Well, there's different type of diagrams. There's a lot of consultants in the industry that I'm in that their diagrams suck. It's hard to put together what they're thinking and illustrate it in a diagram, right?
Yeah.
If you take the system analysis and design in college, it will tell you what diagram to use when, right?
Yeah.
For instance, now, can you learn it on YouTube? Yes. So that you don't know that. And I think that's where all this idea comes from, where I was able to learn it and apply it immediately. So when you go back to college older, you do that. Everything comes like, oh, that makes sense. You just associate stuff. You're filling more the gaps that started from zero. I think that will be the message to people trying to go back to college.
Absolutely. And that was my experience as well. It was so much easier when I went back when I was in my late 20s. And because you have all this work experience, this life experience that you can kind of relate things back to because you have a sense of how the world works.
Right.
I'm just laughing at the part where you mentioned the designs that suck. The graphs.
Hey.
So.
I didn't apologize for those, but if you're one of those, might as well go to YouTube and understand background. Yeah. I don't know, systems design.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah, and but to your point, when it comes out of a college or university, they're obviously not the case all the time, but there's a certain validation of the expertise that are being provided to you, and these are tried and true. And within certain things, systems analysis, these things have been worked on for a long time, right?
Yeah.
In technology.
No, definitely.
I initially brought up the undergrad to go into what you're doing today. After your undergrad with your education, what are you taking right now? Where are you taking it?
I'm a candidate now for my MBA. I'm almost done, hopefully this year. The emphasis is in enterprise applications. I'll have a master's of business administration with the emphasis in enterprise applications, right? And again, working in the industry, and some people ask me like, dude, you're being a director, you have a great role. Why are you going back to school, right? And I'm taking it at Cal State Fullerton again. It's a really good program, really good business school they have. The master's program it's something that I wanted to do for a personal reason rather than for a career advancement. It's something I've been wanting for the longest time, and which is teaching. If I get an MBA, I can teach. I wanted to be able to teach at one point college level classes, right? Just showing possibility to people, I think that can go a long way, right? Being able to guide them towards the right direction. Someone did that to me, and I feel very grateful for that. So I started as a community college, going back to kind of how I got into college and all that. When I came to the States, I started for math for kids. Think about math is hard. Now try to do it in a second language, right? So it was very difficult to even understand what they were asking and then just know the math concepts to do that. I started from math for kids at college, and my reading and writing in English was, again, as a second language, right? I have to do a bunch of courses just to level up to college level. And my English class was with a bunch of ESL students just to get level up so that I can go to English 100, which is the main college with actually first English speakers, right? It was very difficult. So I had to start in community college, but something interesting happened going back that I dropped out of college once already in Mexico as a graphic designer. And then I did it again. I started doing hotel management for my career at community college. I already know the industry. I love talking to people. I was born and raised in a very touristic place. Hotel management seemed the right place to go. And then I learned how much they make and the hours that they work. So that's something that I guess we can go into the decision making when you're thinking about college, right? Is around, I found out how much money they were making. And at that time, in 2010, a GM that was my teacher, I asked him, dude, how much money you make? He was a GM for I don't know if we can say brands, but he was for a hotel.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, I'm making 98K, okay, 98,000. And that's 2010, maybe it's more now. But compared to that point, I was like, you're a GM. He works all the weekend. Forget about holidays. I did that when I was in Mexico. I work in industry, so no Christmas, no holidays, no New Year's Eve. You work all days, no weekends, right? Your day off in a freaking Wednesday. What is to do on the Wednesday, right? Nothing. Go to the library or whatever. But there's nothing, right? There's nothing like you can do. So I was like, oh man, all that's gonna be gone. I didn't have kids at that point, but I'm forget about baseball, forget about soccer games on Saturday. It's gone, right? At that point, you really have to love it to be able to work in that industry. Exactly at the same time when I was still going to hotel management classes and leveling up in math and English, I met someone who said, hey, you were doing graphic design at one point. Can you build my website? So that's how I was, I don't know how. And he said, well, you figure it out. At that time, I was just going to school and trying to figure out this website thing. I was able to learn HTML and understand what a website was and all that. Anyways, I built a website and the guy was really pleased.
I gotta pause you there, because how did you learn HTML? This is something like learning to code and without even going to school. Where did you learn how to code?
That's a good question. I was going for hotel management, but I always loved technology. So it was a side of me that I was technology, right? I was into breaking them apart when I was a kid. Well, breaking computers apart, putting them together, into design and just games a little bit, right? I always felt comfortable in tech.
Yeah.
And I just started researching what is a website, how to build a website, And I will spend hours, maybe 10 hours a day after school and go to bed really late, just learning what is HTML, how to use CSS, how to put it together using Dreamweaver at that time, and just being able to making it happen. I was just learning. And that was the easy part, the HTML. The hard part is when the same guy who told me build this website, he told me, can you build an inventory system? Dude, I'm just learning HTML. I don't even know how to start, right?
Yeah.
And then a friend of mine told me about LinkedIn, which is interesting, by the way. And he said, LinkedIn, you can probably ask my dad. He works in the tech industry. And this guy is from college, right? And I literally messaged this dude. I don't remember his name anymore. And I said, hey, sir, your son told me that I should ask you this question. I need to build an inventory system. So he gave me, actually, nicely enough, he said, oh, you need a database, either MySQL or SQL, or I think those are the two that he suggested. You need a site scripting language, either PHP or Perl or something like that. And then you need the website component, the web HTML and everything. And I'm okay. And I just grabbed that and I would start researching what is PHP, what is MySQL, what is all this stuff. I spent a lot of time just learning. Again, it comes back because I had no option. I had to go and get something going, right? There was this idea of I'm already in my 20s. Forget about mess ups. Drop out of one college, I kept going to hotel management because I didn't want to do it again.
Yeah.
I was building this system, and anyways, long story short, I found someone who taught me CRUD, which is create, update, delete, and read a record, right?
Yeah.
Using PHP, MySQL, and HTML together. And I was like, wow, that's magic, right? And anyway, so he taught me. Shout out to Kevin McCabe. He's kind of my tech mentor, and he works at Blizzard right now. Freaking genius. That guy is
The same place that makes Diablo and
yeah,
all.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, Blizzard Activision. He works there. He's in DevOps, but that guy knows how to write code. He's one of those guys that are just never stuck in a problem.
Terrific.
He's always solves it, right? I got that from him. When people tell me, Hector, you get stuck, but you always find a solution and whatnot, I learned that from that guy. That guy, I never saw him getting stuck ever. He got stuck temporarily, and he will be okay. We'll have to figure it out, but he always did, and that's something that I got from him.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been.
We're definitely. I made a note. We'll dive into that. But you got the started consulting. So.
Yeah, so technically I started consulting, doing web application, right? I was building a web application, and then I got paid. Okay, holy shit! I remember I got paid at that time, I don't know, $1,800 or $2,000 for a website, right? And it's little in a sense, but I didn't know nothing, right? I learned all this, and I built a site and a system, and I learned how to build a little system, right? The inventory system wasn't a crazy inventory system. It was just a simple web application to search container. It wasn't too hard. At that point, it was freaking hard.
Yeah.
But all that learning, right? So I was talking to my counselor at college, and I said, I just need help. I'm going to hotel management, and I started talking to him about this websites and systems and all that and business, because I'm very passionate about business. And he's, dude, why don't you just dumb hotel management? No, again, right? I have to drop out of college again.
Yeah.
And he said, but just switch into information system. What's that? Here's the path. And then he did the best thing that I think I would give this advice to anyone who's watching is check online information system and think and look for the careers and the roles with this type of degree, right? And I remember looking, this is in 2011, and I remember looking, what will be the top paying jobs in 4 years? Literally, I just searched, and I remember coming on top, of course, doctor on top, dentist, right? But after that, there were 4 different data something, IT director, systems management, and there were a bunch of things that are 4 different high paying jobs are with this career, right? So just I think that's something people should look around, right? Which is set up your objective, how much money I want to make. That's literally one good thinking. And then how much sacrifice do I have to make in order to get to that?
This is a common thing that you've already kind of brought up, and I noticed you talked about, and this came up in my last interview I did, where you're looking ahead of the path. Like you said, money. What are the top paying jobs 4 or 5 years from now? But what I think is really terrific here is that you straight up went to somebody and were like, hey, how much do you make? Because you're at the end of the path I'm currently on. And you heard that and you went, oh, I'm not waiting around to make not just the money, because money's not everything, but you were talking about how this guy's not working. He's not going to be able to have a sustainable family life. That ability of just looking ahead, where did you get that from?
I read a couple of books that I think typical Rich Dad, Poor Dad, everyone talks about it. Okay. I read that in 2008 before actually traveling to Europe. Then I read the Richest Guy in Babylon, right? And I listened to a lot of Anthony Robbins stuff a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I remember asking, because I'm always being very curious. Actually, there's an inside joke with my family. I'm the youngest one, right? They pick on me, my oldest brother, about, I was asked, he would say stupid questions, which granted I was probably really young. But I always wonder, who wins, right? If you put a lion and someone running, who wins, right? All these stupid things but I was very curious. And again, we can see whether right or wrong, but the idea of curiosity, right? I was very curious. When I was working on this party boat, the owner will go and visit one time. I actually talked to him and I asked him, because in the book of, I think it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it literally says, ask rich people, how did they get rich? And they will tell you. okay, I have this rich dude here. Dude, how do you become rich? I didn't have money and I wanted to go to school. I had to walk 2 hours to catch a bus. And then from there, right? And then there every day, oh, cool, effort,
Yeah.
right? This mentality, he's, well, you have to think where you want to go, right? It never ends on what you want to do, right? It changes, but at least it gets you somewhere where you were about. Let's say if you travel north and the goal is Canada, okay?
Yeah.
Maybe you get to Montana or Seattle. You're already in the north, right? Maybe you just didn't get Canada, but you're there, right? I have this mentality of, everyone uses the expression of shoot for the stars and you might hit the moon or vice versa, whatever the expression is. But it's this idea of where you want to go and truly identify, right? What I want to go. So my goal is not that I'm rich, not at all, but it's this idea of do I make more money than when I was in Mexico? 100% more, right? Do I make more money than in 2010? And at what point I want to be there, right? But I saw that 2011. In 2011, I remember asking, how much do you make, dude? Where I want to be, right? And I think it just came from really asking people something that you don't know. You should find someone that is in that place that you want to be and just ask them. I can guarantee you 90% of the time they will tell you how. I can tell everyone what I've done in my journey. Why am I driven? Why am I all this? I'm always open to that. And people will be open to it.
And there's really obviously there's excuses, but look at the path you had to take with English as a second language. And side tangent, I grew up in a household full of exchange students. My parents always had exchange students, and they would ask me for help with their English homework. And they were unanimously from people around the world. I would get stuck on so many problems as a native English speaker. It's my first language. It made me realize how hard of a language English is to learn because the rules there are no rigid rules. There's all just exceptions. So I just wanted to point that out. And
Yeah. I want to make a point around the decision, right?
Yeah.
And again, looking at the path. I don't know if you remember the game called The Sims, or have you heard about The Sims?
Yep.
The Sims came out a long time ago. I think when I was in high school around that time, or middle school. I don't know, but that game I remember it was about your life, right? You have your cartoon or your little character. You start with a tiny little home. You had to work. You have to go to the restroom. Almost a little house, right? It's kind of boring now if I think about it. But I remember back then playing it a little bit. And one of the things that I do every time I learn something, I have to apply it, right? It's not the same thing as learning math and then doing applied mathematics, right? You can do calculus. Oh shit, what am I learning calculus for, right? It's ridiculous. If you apply calculus in business, you can get profitability and you can get a bunch of things with calculus, right? How soon I'm gonna go south in the business, right? At this rate, right? Just the rate of change. Someone said, hey guys, let's grab calculus and then do this and then apply it to business, right? So you can do that. It's just apply something, right? Every knowledge that we have, we should apply it. And immediately. This is random in a sense of a video game. But think about it. In that video game, you start in a little house and there was an option to buy bigger homes, right? Or build your home pretty big. You can put a pool, you can buy appliances, and you can buy TVs and all these cool things, right? That give you, there was a metric around happiness and that your character will have. But I remember the coolest thing about this is you can read the newspaper, and again, it's an old game, but you can read a newspaper and find a job, right? Because you need food and it was the whole thing. And I remember there were some jobs that were offered, but you could see what is the top career that you can take, right? So you might be, I don't remember the roles right now, but let's say you were a teacher and you were X, right? You can choose depending on your goal and your aptitude and what you came. I believe that we have a duty in the world to do something good. My dad was a teacher and I love he wanted that and he did really good and impacted people's lives. And I have a lot of respect for teachers, right? They don't get paid well as much as they should. But that doesn't mean that it's just, well, then don't choose that career. If that's your career and you can align that with everything else to be fulfilled, then I think people should take what makes them fulfilled.
Yeah.
Because at one point you're gonna hit some areas of just financial perspectives and you're gonna be miserable and you're just gonna feel shit and you didn't accomplish anything. So avoiding that tangent, going back to this game, you could see the path and then you can tell you what you need to do. hey, you need to read books. So you put your character, you make your character read books, and then you gain knowledge, and now you can apply for another job or you can get promoted, right? And things. If you apply the same system to your life, where, okay, what is the high paying, which I did, I truly did. I literally said, what is the high paying jobs in the next 4 years? And it was everything around systems and about technology. Okay, cool. This is early 2011, right? Perfect. I'm going to follow this. And people were making over $100,000, all those roles, right? And I was, this is it. Now, what are the sacrifices I had to do? Well, I had to work really hard. I have to improve my math, right? Yeah. After taking math for kids at college level at 23 years old, doing additions and subtractions, I ended up tutoring calculus, right? In my college. Okay, tutoring my team, my friends, that they wouldn't get it because I was in a mindset of, okay, I know my goal. I want to get a degree in systems because it's going to pay me very well at one point. And the sacrifice was studying 9 hours straight math. I would study math after school. I would study the whole day. I will read a bunch of books. I will find people that were really good at English writing, and I will be and sit with them and be like, dude, review my writing, review my essays. I will write essays. I actually signed up for history honors, which was really funny because I didn't know the college system here. I just saw an opening and for a history class, I was registering and I was like, oh, okay, I'll register here. And I registered for history honors. Bad thing, but good thing. Yeah. The worst thing was that I worked so hard on that freaking class because we only wrote essays. And it was tough because I was second language, right? So I'm shit, like history honors. But the coolest thing is that I learned a lot of American history. I think I know a lot more potentially than people that were born here. Yeah. But I do know a lot of American history, and my writing got really good. And I wasn't taking English, but it's just because I was writing so much. Yeah. And the professor was tough, and it was an honors class. I ended up doing very well in that class. I told people I worked 10 times more than everyone else. Yeah. I rewrote my essays. I had to write an essay, write it with hand because professor was asking write it written by hand, which is, oh gosh. But I had to rewrite, and I just work harder than everyone else. I knew that, and that's the game. And as soon as people understand that the game is set up for different groups, and I don't want to get into detail, yeah, but there's some already, if you're first English speaker, you're winning 1-0 if there was a soccer game with me. Okay, I'm already losing here. Yeah, I just came to do the same class. I don't have the knowledge of English. I'm losing. That means I have to work harder. Yeah. Period. Right. Simple. Nothing crazy. In different areas. Right. I just learned that from the beginning. If I want to get there, which I knew that was my objective, needed to work 10 times harder, and I did.
You know what's awesome about that is that with you, it seemed it was forged early on. You can't take your foot off the gas pedal because it's already 1-0. And I can speak to the audience here. I don't think you ever will. So because it's so built into you, and I've seen how you work. But the people that do start up 1-0, I wonder how many of them go, oh, we'll take our foot off the gas pedal. Right? Let's just take it easy here. Let's take a little break. And your mentality is just skyrocketing you ahead of them.
It's not that I'm killing myself.
No. Yeah, I don't mean it that way.
No. But to your point, right? I think people should do what works for them. Yeah. And for me I think there was a bit of, not a bit, but as you say, competition. Being number 6, right? Yeah. Just think about it. Yeah. Everyone was already reading, doing math, knowing chess, basketball or sports, all my brothers and sisters, right? Before me. Yeah. And I had to play at their level, right? All the time. There was this almost, I always had to push myself harder. I had it in almost by situational, I would say. Yeah. I was placed in a spot where there was already that push. When I came here, that's how we should all live. Yeah. Not necessarily, but that's how I see the world and I perceive the world. So then I just push myself with myself. You have to keep up. You have to keep going, right? Again, you're losing. It's a mentality of you're losing 1-0 in a game. And I know you play sports, right? Guys, we have to just keep going. Yeah. I have that feeling, right? For a long time. Right now, maybe that had changed slightly, but I can agree. But people tell me, dude, just why are you going back to do your MBA? You have 2 kids and you have a good career. But it's this idea of a perception of the world. Yeah.
And I didn't know you were going back for your MBA for teach it because you want to teach. That's super cool. I think I have a good idea, but what makes you want to teach people? Why do you enjoy it?
I would say again, I think the first thing is definitely my dad.
Yeah.
Huge influence, right?
Yeah.
Changing the way and impact people's lives. There were a couple of professors that I met in college that impacting my life, right?
Yeah.
Like this counselor. I mean, he was a teacher, of course, but the one that told me, "Hey, why don't you just go to this route?"
Yeah.
And then everything, my career took off. That was something cool because he had that knowledge, right? He had that knowledge and was able to see something in me that is, sorry, how to management, that's not what you want.
Yeah.
Based on this conversation, this is where you should excel, right? And I try to do the same things, paying back for the influence one from my dad, but also the influence from professors, right? My economics professor, he was amazing. And we will have conversations about just the world. And he was really chill about it and explain economics in a more behavioral way and understanding and not all mathematical. Again, some math people figure out that you can do economics with math, but you can actually do economics just by rationalizing it, right? To, as I said, right, like, and I do that with my leadership and in teams, with my teams, is I'm able to see what people are really good at, and I want them to explode, right? I want them to their career to take off and really just become a better version of themselves. And that makes me very happy. When I can help someone and I see them and then I get a note saying, "Hey, Hector, I'm doing this now. Check this out. Thank you." I feel that if I have a bigger audience in a college level and just be able to, maybe out of 50, 10 people become wow of something that I might have said, I'm pretty happy with that.
It sounds you want to be not just teach the studies, but have it's your act of service to enable people with the experience of college we were talking about earlier, not just the textbook stuff, but the actual experience and being able to give back to what was given to you, which really made you explode in this tech world.
And I think there's one thing about, for me, the technical stuff is a given. Or the textbooks. Like, we have to learn it. Whether you're learning in a classroom or you're learning on YouTube, it's knowledge. So that's given, right? If you're in a classroom and you're not learning, get out, right? Okay, if you're fortunate enough to be in a classroom in college, might as well learn it and apply that knowledge, right? So my intention in the future is not only give them the knowledge, I'm assuming everyone is reading, right, at this point. So that's for starters. You're reading. If you're in this classroom, you're reading, you're learning something. And two, I'm going to tell you how to apply immediately that knowledge to something, right? Because the problem is everyone questions, why am I learning debits and credits, right? In an accounting class. Dude, you don't know that if you work in the world of systems and consulting, or again, because it's our industry, that if you're going to implement a billing system, you need to understand accounting, right? And if you would have paid attention in business school, it will be easier now to learn it, right? Where to apply the knowledge. And I think that's what I want to do, is be able to tell what you're learning, you can apply it, right? And that's it, the application of the knowledge. There's a lot of theory, and that's cool, but how do you apply your knowledge? I think those are the elements that I want to bring to the table. Aside from the icing on the cake, from my perspective, is I want to inspire you and let you know that it's possible. That is really hard, but if I did it, I think people can do it too.
You can show, not tell, just your story alone.
To that point about going to college, right? And the reason I gave it a rating of 10, I pushed myself to college, and I went with, have no debt, right? In college, everything is out of pocket, but I work full time. I work full time while going to college full time.
No student loans or anything. You work full time, pay for your...
No nothing. Check that I make, check that goes to school. This idea of it was expensive, but you figure out there's ways. There's a level of responsibility that falls on, again, going back when you go young or when you get older to school, slightly different perception and perspective, and the way you grew up, right? I would not buy a book. I would rent it, right? Now they have possibility of Amazon. Rent that book for the semester. You might not read it. If you really like a class, then you buy the book, right? I kept my finance book because it's freaking awesome. I kept my calculus book because it's really good, and because I love that book. It was nice, explained. I didn't keep some psychology, with all the respect. I psychology, but I didn't want that textbook. I didn't buy it. I rented, right? You find your way. So rented your books, bring your lunch. This is your trick to save money.
The simple things.
You don't have to splurge on everything. Time will come when you can splurge. That I can tell you. Time will come if you stay focused, and just the career, the race that we're going into. If we were to talking about a marathon, right? It's not a sprint. It's a marathon,
Yeah.
right? This idea of take your time. You don't have to be going crazy about, I'm gonna finish and I'm gonna put 5 classes. Taking 5 classes,
Yeah.
you can take 4 classes. You can take 4 courses. You can figure out ways to be efficient about it.
Absolutely. How far along are you into the MBA right now, in terms of a percentage?
I have 3 more courses to go. That's it.
Okay, it
So
sounds
three
like
classes
more than
and I'm done.
90%.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would say this is my last semester will be next fall. So end of this year, I'm hoping to be done.
Prior to this, just looking at your work history, you've had an enormous amount of experience in the business world. And now you're back at the MBA. What is it that you're getting from the MBA that is the biggest value add right now?
And I'm going with my first premise about college is my last chance to meet incredible people. What I'm gaining from that, aside from the knowledge, which is again, that's given so that I can get knowledge, right? I'm at a master's level. Now you're meeting accountants, you're meeting finance professionals, you're meeting people working in project management in different industries, you're meeting architects that want to get into a business side, right? You're meeting people in the health industry that wants to understand the business stuff, people from the tech world, right? That they need an extra action in their careers and whatnot, understanding the business side of things, right? The MBA is really focused on understanding the business side. Many people have never taken an accounting class. They don't understand the difference between managerial and financial accounting. They don't understand in finance, right? You have to know cash flows and understand that, right? There's marketing, right? I'm taking actually right now a marketing class where my professor is a freaking beast. We already did a study on narrowing data and knowing how, as a matter of fact, going back to the conversation about college, we found that people that smoke more don't have a college education, right? For instance, and the data is there, at least in the US. Okay. People with lower education tend to fall into, according to data, and this is not my opinion, it's just data and I can have it and hand it over. But we did that research in marketing, right? Hey guys, if you were to set a campaign for stop smoking, what segment should we target, right? And we just went and got all this data, we sorted out, and we figured out that a portion of the country smokes more. And we look at certain things and you can see there's a correlation there. Again, it's data, right?
And correlation, not causation, but correlation is all you need for the campaign to segment.
It is there, right? Would we target the people that would smoke? No, we're going to target the people that are less smokers, and then we put the campaign there so we can have completely, like, again, everyone can smoke or not smoke. That I'm not suggesting that, but I'm just talking about college, right? Somehow people with not having a college education fall in that category. That's what it's data. So again, application immediately, right? And is relevant to even the conversation we're having, where I just have marketing class and you wouldn't think about marketing talking about a relationship to college, right? Yeah. To again, whether college is worth it or not, correlation to smoking, right? Like, there's all these pieces of data. Again, if I didn't know and I was not in the industry of consulting and technology, okay, big deal. But I know data and I'm fascinating. They're using data. How are they keeping the data? How are they sorting the data, right? What system are they using, right? All that comes into play. When you go back to college as a professional, you're going to find that all these people that are experts in their area, they've been doing that for at least 10 years. Or I talked to a tax expert, right? She's a classmate and I asked her questions about my taxes and, hey, what do you think about this? And she's you have to dude, you have access to this amazing information, right? If someone asks me something about technology, I'm going to give them a whole lesson. Not that I'm an expert at tech, but I've been in the industry for a bit. I can just maybe give a better answer that if they just ask someone else, right? Yeah. We have access to information, not only a professor, but everyone around you. And that's the value, you know?
The relationships are key aspect of the MBA. In terms of, you've already mentioned some, but are there any other portable skills that you've received from either your undergrad or your MBA? And by portable, I mean a skill you got from college that you were able to apply, like you mentioned, into the workplace.
So again, it will be this idea of public speaking, right? That's pretty challenging, right? That's really challenging. And for those that have a fear of speaking in public, I highly recommend taking a speech class. I took a speech class, again, going back to, well, part of the program, but two, it helps you not feel so nervous, talking in front of people. The again, another one is you can share an opinion, right? If you raise your hand and ask a question, many people are never ask a question, right? And I'm sure people have questions, and goes back to our industry, right? If we don't ask the right question, we cannot gather the right information for our customers. But it's important to be able to ask questions. And when you're in college, you're in a setting of professor is there, you raise your hand to ask the question, right? You become comfortable asking questions. That's one that is, I don't think any other setting that allows you to be, unless you're interrogation or
Yeah,
something like that,
yeah.
right? But you have to be comfortable with asking questions. I kind of put a note here. I kind of mentioned already the idea of people and culture awareness. That's huge because in the actual, when you get into the professional world, you have to deal with people with different cultures, especially in tech, right? And I don't know, maybe everywhere, but at least again, industry that I know is the tech industry. You have to be aware of people and culture, right? You have to understand that some people eat certain things, they celebrate different things, they will have different tones and sounds, accents,
Yeah.
whatever that is, right? And I don't think the word accents could, our tongue gets trained in a different way. That's how it works. And then the phonetic side, that's what it's all about. But you have to understand that, and then you're comfortable with that, and you understand how do you work and talk to certain people. Again, portable skill, which I love the term, by the way. I think that's key in college. You're surrounded, you become friends, and you just learn about cultures, and you're, oh man, I didn't know that, right? Don't give certain colors gifts to certain cultures,
Yeah.
or time, right? For some people, arriving at it's right sharp
Yeah.
8 o'clock. Some people, 8:15, 8:25,
8-ish.
time is, yeah, 8-ish, right? Like, and understand it and be okay with that, right? That the only thing you learn that is because no one is gonna be researching this, right? Like,
Yeah.
meaning, if I'm just thinking and I've never went to college and I don't want to go to college, how do I know how to be flexible, right? What's gonna happen is when this individual gets into a business setting and no one is at 8 sharp in the call or a meeting because they're from different cultures, you were not aware of that.
Yeah.
Everyone else is. There's this understanding of be more empathetic, right? And that opens up another can of worms, in a sense of, okay, now how do I react? Right now I'm aware of this, but then how do I react to differences in culture and different people and whatnot? Well, you be empathetic. You can be pissed, but you're gonna be pissed all life because no one is the same in life. There's a lot of different cultures and people and whatnot, personalities. So you have to be very, very mindful and understand people.
I think college is a great space to really be exposed to it on a broad level, but we're moving into a very globalized world, and these are things that are very important.
Mhm.
A quick story: I just finished a project with an architect, and he was from India, and he moved from India to Canada. He was telling me something I never even thought about. He was talking about how off-putting it was for him, or confusing it was for him, when he would ask someone for advice that had grown up in North America, like, how do I do this thing? And then if they replied in any low degree of certainty or in something that wasn't straightforward, he'd get confused. So for example, they'd be like, how do I solution this? And if they answered like, oh, one way to do it this way, this is how I would do it, but you do it how you want to do it, he would just be, just tell me how to do it.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm not going to take your advice seriously. And he said that was the biggest shift for him, was for, I guess, in his experience in India, people would be like, no, you do it this way. And that's how you knew, okay, this is how it's done. But here it's kind of like, oh, here's one way you could do it. You could try it, but it's the tone
Possibilities.
where he's looking
Yeah.
for that direct tone of an answer to
Mhm.
pay attention to.
Yeah.
And these little things I'm still learning in the workplace with different cultures as well.
And it goes both, it goes different ways, right? It's like, for instance, you have to be very mindful, and especially in a leadership role, right? When you're in a leadership role, it's your duty to understand and work with everyone else. You have to adapt to each individual, not the other way around,
Mm.
right? You have to understand how do you communicate to this person, because everyone is different, right? Everyone has their own personalities, their own cultures, everything, right? You have to be mindful about how to talk to them, how to communicate with them, right? There's a lot of people that to be in the spotlight and be, "Wow, you did a great job. They don't want that. And we have to know that, and we have to be respectful enough. And when we're gonna tell them something, we might want to do a one-on-one and be, hey, congratulations, that was incredible. And that person is gonna be super happy, right? Otherwise, they're being shadowed by their insecurities and no liking being on the center of attention. And everyone thinks, oh, I'm gonna applaud to you in a public setting. But people who think that is because they're thinking of them, that they show, oh, I'm showing appreciation. And it's not always that. Some people don't want to be appreciative in front of everyone in a public setting. As a leader, you have to understand that. Again, being aware of cultures, I know some people just need a note. Send a nice note, an email, or a thank you note, and be like, wow, you did incredible. And that's it. That goes more to home than just be like, I'm going to do it publicly because that's what everyone does. It doesn't work that way. As a leader, it's your responsibility to adapt to the team that you work with.
I'm glad you brought up the topic of leadership because I was kind of excited to talk to you about this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you helped grow a team from 4 to 50 plus people within
close to, yes,
a year and a half?
Year and a half. Yeah, year and a half and change, yes.
What were some of the biggest leadership lessons that you got from that experience?
A very good question. There's a couple of things. One is validation that people are actually good. I truly believe that humans and people are good. And it was validation of that people are actually good. There's good intention. The second thing was, if you create an environment as a safe environment for people to share, to collaborate, to talk to each other, to respect each other, and to see each other as humans, you're almost guaranteed success. You're like a 95% there to be successful. Everything else will fall in place. Creating an environment where we can all talk to each other. We're people. That's it. There were senior architects. I was a director. People were team leads, and were people that are functional experience. Some people were really, really technical. But we created this environment where we're people. And no one was, there were junior people, and they're really, really senior people, right? And we were able just to talk, and we were able to ask a question and not feel like this setting, if I ask the question, I'm going to be seen as a dumb question, or dude, you should know this, or get out because you suck, right? That environment is very toxic. And what I learned in this process is, when you create an environment for people to be themselves, then everything else falls into place. People learn faster. That's something that I learned, because I saw people from new to this quoting system, and then within 6 months they were excelling, right? And it was the environment. There is an environment of overachieving, right? We held each other accountable. That's super valuable, where it wasn't me telling everyone, you have to get it done. It's the environment that we created where everyone just had this mentality of like, we have to get it done, right? And there's people say different things and whatnot about, oh, you have to have the winning mentality. It's more than that. It's a mindset of, I just feel I can win every time with this team. That's the mentality, but it has to be starting from the environment that we created. So people learn faster. If you double down in people, truly not intentional, not just like, I'm sure you guys are incredible. You did an amazing job. Okay, that's going to go here and go there, right? But if you talk to people and tell them, I'm struggling on this family matter, I need your help, people step up. People will always step up. And if you create an environment, no one will leave you hanging ever. I can tell you from my team right now, and friends that I know that are not working with us in the team, but I know that if we need something, they'll be there. And they will be there for each other. There's people that don't work with us anymore. The people that don't report to me or anything, and they still reaching out. We'll still have one-on-ones, talking to people outside of the current company I work for. People reach out. And that is the idea, creating a community where people will be there for each other, but also holding each other accountable. And when you maintain quality, you just feel like, oh, I want to better myself too, right? And just create this idea of a high performance team where everyone has the same mindset of, we are going to deliver high quality work. We are going to help each other and be there for each other. We're going to enable each other. We're going to teach, and we're going to just overall, right? We're going to teach, we're going to learn, and we're just going to be there. I think if you set up that environment from a lesson learned as a leader, I think you're going to succeed no matter what.
So glad you said that, because that was from the top down. I could provide the perspective for those of you who don't know. I was one of those 50 that joined the team, and it was my first time ever getting into consulting. That was very much so the feeling that I had. The feeling of safety was definitely there. There wasn't this micromanagey feel, you better do your job. It's just, I just got kind of paired up with a social circle of people. You get to know them, and everyone's driven, everyone wants to do a good job, and then you just start naturally just kind of, oh yeah, of course I'll take
Yeah.
that on, or yeah, I got your back, or oh, something happened with the kids, I'll work overtime, doesn't matter. And you knew that they would do the same for you, and they would. But there were some, and I didn't even realize what was happening on the team. It was now that I'm thinking about it, man, I was working crazy hours at a certain point in projects, but I don't know, it was fun. It was fun because I was working with people that I liked and people with the same mindset. And there's another element of safety that you kind of created. And in my first week on the job, one of the practice leads had left, and who had helped also build the team, Josh Nelson, if he's watching this. When he left, he was going on to do other things. But if I had seen someone exit that at any other company, at any other team, it would have been, okay, well, this person's gone. All right, what's next on the agenda? The team had the formal goodbye. Where are you going? Why'd you make this decision? Let's hear you out. And we all stayed connected. And that was a common thing. You would see people kind of, if they did go to another company or take on another pursuit, there's this element of safety. I
Mm-hmm.
think that drew in really talented people as well. And because we felt so safe, I don't know, like we felt comfortable opening up. Yeah, you know what? Like, I'm planning on making a move, and they'd be open and honest. Here's what's happening.
I think it's about generating trust, right? And I feel that's something that, by the way, one of the things that I admire Josh and he has this. We have similar mentalities about trying to do our part so that we can just share with other people about how amazing it is to have a team of great humans, right? Him and I had conversations around we're building a little. He used to do this analogy. We're building a little tower, two from each other until we get to here, right? From our perspectives, and it was a really healthy business relationship with Josh, and he has this mentality of great humans, right? And right now, what he's doing with his company and the talented people that work with him, right? They're incredible humans, right? And that's the goal. I feel like we should focus more on that. And we were doing a celebration when people were leaving the company.
Yeah.
Because I personally was really, really happy about people leaving the company. It hurt us and the business a bit, but I knew there were other people's coming. There were already people working towards bettering themselves that we can just, okay, this person left, but as a leader, again, you have to know that,
Yeah.
right? That's the reason I was keep building. We never stopped building talent, even though someone else was fighting the fight, right? So that if someone else, again, as a leader, you have to always think strategically, right? There's a funny thing that Syed, one of our teammates, and Trevor and Courtney and Jessica, they saw that they were the team leads in our group, and they every time I would talk about something, there's Syed made a joke now that is, oh, Hector's thinking 3 quarters ahead. Before they knew that, oh, how are we gonna make all this happen? Oh, I'm not talking about right now. I'm talking about the next 3 quarters, right? So we have always step. By the time we got there, then it was easy.
Yeah.
But it seems pretty hard first. But it was this idea of you have to think strategically. And from deciding to go to college or not, you have to think strategically. Everything comes down from there. If you're in a leadership role, you have to constantly start thinking about next quarter or 2 or 3 ahead. If you have team members in management roles, you have to know what's next. Otherwise, if you're gonna fall into a bad habit of reaction,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just going to be reactive, because life and business and economics and all that never stops, and it constantly change, right?
Yeah.
If it's just about habits, and just give your time a little bit of like, take a breather and just think in the future and do some analysis.
Absolutely. And when you have that, to go back to the safety portion, when you experience that as a staff member coming onto this team, you want to give it your all and help the team. Like I mentioned, because they would do the same for you. I've been part of teams where it's fear driven or do this or else. I'm sure I'm not the only one. You put in what they ask for, nothing extra. I found on this team, we were just really putting in the extra to help out. And it was fun. It was way funner that way.
People, this is the analogy I tell people. I'm sorry to cut you off, but this is something that I always tell people. Running and dancing, they both burn calories, but dancing is fun.
Yeah.
So you could be dancing for hours and hours, and because you're enjoying yourself and you're burning a ton of calories. If you're running, you might just get bored, or some people love that. But the idea is that, right? You can be working so many hours, but if you're enjoying yourself, you're dancing, dude.
Yeah.
You're just enjoying. You're okay, more hours. I used to have meetings with the team in Jaipur that we used to have at night, on a Thursday night, my time, and I would just chat with them, right? And we just talk about, again, we're just people. That's it. Yeah. We're just people. No one is. We have titles, all that stuff. That's for a business, okay? But understanding leadership is, let's really focus on people. People are the drivers of revenue at the end of the day. Especially in the consulting industry, right? If you're in the consulting industry, people drive your revenue. Yep. If you don't have people, you don't have revenue. Yep. Done. You can have a project and no capacity to deliver a project, no revenue.
Yeah.
Period.
You don't need calculus to do that equation.
Might as well just make your team and your teams to be happy and enjoy what they're doing. Give them what they need. Many of the team, including you and the team, these people are smart. Give them challenges. Yeah. These people are sharp. The individuals that I work with, I've never seen such group of minds that is, holy crap, these people just know everything. It's crazy. And the willingness and to learn and just betting themselves, it's crazy. If there's team members, we should be like, whoa, let's make them feel more comfortable. Let's make sure they have what they need. They need a challenge. They need to be creating value. Let's figure out what works for each individual. Otherwise, another point of leadership is you have to understand what the strengths are for each individual member that you work with. Mm-hmm. And then it's your job as a leader to guide them, to polish them so they can shine. And even if they're going to leave your company or your group, do something bigger, that's what matters, right? Because you might influence them. And is your duty as your leader to find and get this shiny, I don't know, I'm pretty bad at analogies, but this idea of you have someone, like a diamond, right? And
diamond in the rough.
There you go, right? So it's your job to find them, guide them, and then make them sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know some team members that I know recently left and whatnot, kicking ass in other companies, right? And it makes me very happy because I feel we found them from different areas. We played them here, we placed them here, and then all of a sudden now their career takes. I think that's my duty as a leader, to find people's strength, let them know, hey, by the way, you're really strong in here. Yeah. And then, sometimes they don't even know. And then it's your duty as a leader to let them know, by the way, you're really good at this. Let's work on this part. And then they take off, right? You just change someone's life. Yeah. That's it. Anyway, so just going back to, again, you probably know I'm very passionate about leadership.
No, it's what I wanted to talk to you on top of college about as well. And what happens is when those people, even though they leave, other people ask them, hey, where's a good place to learn these skills or to develop? And they kind of send switched on people back to you. And it creates this little ecosystem, right? Mm-hmm. Of switched on people getting referred. And making the shift from management to director level, what was the biggest mental shift for you?
I never saw myself as a manager. So even if the role is, you're a manager. As a matter of fact, right now I'm a senior manager. I'm actually a manager. Yeah. But I never see myself as a manager. I always see myself as a leader, right? And I always present myself and run teams as a leader. The management side of things, when I make the comment about you're in school and you're learning stuff, it's a given. To me, management, it's a given. You have to check people's time cards, and you have to check whether they have their PTO correct. That's management stuff. Because I never saw myself as a manager, I knew it's a part of my role to do that, get things done. But the beauty about leadership, and if done, I'm telling that I know everything about leadership. I read a lot, and I love leadership, and I want to learn more about it, right? So I'm constantly reading about it. But the idea is that if you focus on people and you make them feel safe, you make them feel that you have their back, you enable them finding, you're resourceful to them. If you bring knowledge, if you get trainings, if you facilitate all these things and you become what it truly is as a servant leader, the management side is not even hard. It's super easy. It gets done. As a matter of fact, you don't have to manage ever because you just have this. Just think about, right? When we were in the team, it was really rare. Maybe I might have said it once or twice of, guys, you need to do this. I probably never did it.
Yeah.
I always said, this is coming. This is the vision where we're going. And these are the steps that we need to get there. That was it.
Yeah.
It was showing what needs to happen and where are we going and creating this safe environment. And we got there. That's it. I didn't have to do anything else. There was no management involved. And the team, Trevor, Syed, Jessica, and Courtney, they understood that. And then that translates to the rest of the team members, right? We used the same mentality where it was not about get this done. Did you do this? Did you do that? That was not a thing. It was a given. Do you do your time card? Everyone knows should get their time cards in, right? Yeah. Which everyone should know. If you're going to go on PTO, your project should not be in trouble by you leaving. Someone needs to be aware of that, right? If you're taking a certificate test or anything else, everyone knows. You communicate. Yeah. If you're doing something, you communicate. We have our personal numbers. Text, if you're in trouble, something happened to your computer. There is this accountability mindset of you don't need to manage as long as you create an environment where people are accountable, right? And it's just about, it's not a quick thing. You have to work on it on the team until you get to that level of high performance. Yeah. Once you hit that level of high performance, I can guarantee that nothing can stop you. Your team, nothing stop them, right? So my mindset didn't change from manager to leader to more director. It's just I never felt like a manager. There's no need to manage if you have a good environment. Like, people are adults and professionals. We don't need to micromanage.
Yeah, you just get the switched on accountable people. I remember there was at one point a minor issue, maybe not even with us, but with time cards. It was you or someone else said, look, we're not getting to the point where we need to book a meeting with everybody so we all do our time cards. Like, we're all adults. Come on. Yeah, we're all accountable. So, yeah, that kind of covers everything I wanted to talk to you about with career and college. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about?
I kind of want to just touch on something that a while ago, I watched this TED Talk, and it was this woman, I wrote the name here, Janine Davidson, right? And she has a really cool TED Talk. I think she used to work for the Navy.
Janine Davidson is an American public servant known for expertise on topics such as military operations, U.S. foreign policy. Okay.
Yeah, she was the president of one university, I think the Denver University, if you're looking it up, right? I think so. Okay, awesome. It was the same. I highly recommend people to go and look for that TED Talk. And there was just a little bit of that where she explained that in the 1940s, the idea of the American dream, right? And people will have the idea of American dreams is nothing else that people will have your kids will do better than your parents. That's the idea, right? Equal or better than your parents. So in the 1940s, there was a chance of 90% of that you will do better or equal than your parents, right? Then by 2018, and I'm reading it because I think I was fascinated by it, that in the 80s, only 50% of people were doing, okay? People born in the 80s and all that, they'll do a little better or equal or better. Now, there's only an 8% chance for everyone to do. And again, highly recommend it. It was a study at Stanford. You could read more about on that TED Talk. But what stuck with me was this idea of 8%. There's a chance for us to do better than our parents. That's crazy.
What a drop
and that's sad. At least in the US, right? I think she mentioned Canada. I think in Canada it's a bit higher. But understanding that it's just 8% chance, anything that can help you making a path to it. And I think college, and there's nuances about choosing the right career and choosing all that. That's a career choice. That's something else. And I know probably another day for conversation, another topic for conversation, but understanding that 8% is very limited. I think that's kind of one thing that I want to just drop here as just keep in the back of your mind that it's going to be really tough and it's very difficult. Make sure you make the right choices because there's going to be, again, the game is that there's only this little chances for you to do better than your own parents. Might as well let's make the right choices and research, understand a career, and just choose a career that I understand. A lot of people focus on passion and things, but I can tell my passion is drawing, and I still do drawing. I love drawing. I enjoy it, and it's fun and it's good. But something has to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And I happen to love technology too, and not everyone falls into that. But we can have different passions. We can have two, three, or more. And one of them could be your career, right? So again, the idea understanding the sacrifice that it will take to get to that goal of yours, whereas monetary, which tech basically that's where everyone is, wants to make money, change the lifestyle or whatnot, but understanding what makes you happy too. And joy is what we should focus on. And the process of getting a degree or a career or different career promotions and all that, that process is what we should be enjoying. Become very adaptable, right? Hey, I can go to college and I can pay for it while working. That worked for me.
Yeah.
It might not work for everyone, right? The fact that I could find a job and do it while going to school, that worked for me. I worked many hours. Yes. I didn't sleep well for many years. Yes. Was it worth it? 1000%. I feel that if I had not gone to college, I don't think I would have been in the same situation that I'm in right now. And I'm really happy about it. And I'm going back to college and getting my master's now. And that idea of college, I believe that ceiling that exists, if you're very talented, there's going to be an area here that only college can open that and break that ceiling. And I believe still there in the system. From my perspective, college was worth it 100%.
Love it. And with that being said, I know both of our time is limited coming up. How do people find you if they want to get in touch with you?
Just reach out on LinkedIn.
Okay.
You can find my name, Hector Villasenor. I'm sure it's going to be in the description. Just find that link on LinkedIn. I'm always answering questions. If people are interested in just chatting, I'm also open to that. I want to make sure that I can do something for community. Again, I have a bunch of different mentors. I'm happy to do the same for people.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. So glad that we got to make this happen. For everyone watching, I hope you all have a fantastic day.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Likewise. Take care.